Food is a right, and I think many others would agree with that statement. But unfortunately, for many people around the world, food is a luxury. So we need to treat it with respect. Like Thomas Keller said, respect for food is respect for life, for who we are and what we do. In India, the food crisis is only going to get worse, from hunger to both food waste. My name is Lucy, and along with the rest of the Scrap Savers team, we have a proposed solution. But first, let's talk more about the problem. So currently there is a huge poverty crisis in India, with 68% of the Indian population living in poverty and a majority only living on $2 a day, and 15% of the population is in homelessness. So all this poverty is evidently going to affect whether or not people have food on the table. And if you look at this map, you can see just how widespread hunger is, with red representing the most alarming situations and orange representing the somewhat alarming conditions, which basically just spreads across the entire nation. So it's a big problem, obviously. And besides poverty being the reason to why there's so much hunger, it's also because of how much waste is happening in India. Waste arises during the cycle from farm to table, notably at farms and during transportation. As you can see, nearly 40% of food produced goes to waste, simply just because it goes bad. Climate change also has a lasting impact on waste because of the heat, the droughts, and sometimes flood that make it hard for farmers to, one, grow food, and two, make sure that food doesn't over-ripen or rot. The rice crop alone has decreased by 12% compared to last year. So by this first bit of the presentation, you can probably already notice the ironic juxtaposition of food waste and hunger at the same time because of these unsustainable practices. But we have a proposed solution. There are several parts to our solution because, well, hunger and food waste is not a simple topic. So obviously, this isn't going to be a simple solution. First, in our solution, we need funding and community involvement, hence partnerships with NGOs and the Indian government. Then, as a short-term solution, we want to repurpose waste in a circular economy. Then, as a long-term solution, we want to tackle sustainable agriculture and food transport. So, step one. So, as I mentioned, NGO and government partnerships are for funding and community engagement. Oops, sorry, I don't know why this is covering everything. Oh no. Okay, we'll just leave it here. Okay. So NGOs and government partnerships, so they can do funding, community engagement, and also credibility for long-term success. And NGOs have proven to have immense help in various countries like Denmark, and they also aid in having more technical expertise and experts on the subject, and so governments don't have to take on so much of the responsibility, and the NGOs have a more centralized view on what needs to happen. And you can also note the potential implications and limitations here. And then, oops, what's happening? Oh, and those are also some NGOs we noted that would potentially be helpful in this kind of situation. So step 2 of our solution is to repurpose waste. And if you look at the diagram here, to recover food, obviously the first idea is giving it to people who are hungry, but that doesn't really apply to this case because the food is usually rotten. We don't want to serve rotten food to people. Then, of course, some of the foods can be given to animals, which is actually a common practice already implemented in India. And so here, our solution is really concentrating on repurposing food into biogas and digestate. Those can be repurposed for renewable energy or fertilizer, which can be used where the food came from for farming or fridges, which we'll talk a little bit more later. And this has also been successful in several other countries like Thailand. And again, note the implications and limitations that I won't mention just for time purposes. Okay, and here's just a diagram of the this solution if you want to just pause and look at it in more depth. So for our third solution is to rework agriculture and transport through several different methods. With NGO partnerships, we can collect non-perishable foods from urban areas, like canned foods for in-need areas. The important thing is looking for foods that are not perishable, because that's where most of the waste comes from. Farmers and transport facilities can also implement solar-powered fridges to keep food fresh. In the long run, it's cheaper for farmers, and there's a lot of sun in India, so it's there. There are also some fridges already implemented in India, but they aren't solar, and so many farmers cannot afford them. And then third, education for farmers on sustainable agriculture is necessary to make sure they are utilizing the most sustainable practices to avoid wasting water or provoking erosion or deforestation. We could also teach them how to fix the solar power fridges so the farms are completely self-sufficient. Lastly, with all the waste from transport, maybe for the most isolated areas, we can implement a circular food economy with community gardens that use low water consuming vegetables. Again, note the implications and limitations. Those are just some solutions, but the real solution lays in putting ideas to real life. It's expected to be hard, but even if a solution can help one person, that's better than no one. So that's the end of the presentation. If you'd like to look at it in more depth, we have a QR code with our essay. Thank you.